Hello, and welcome to the Minority Arts Appreciation Society, where we're ticking all the boxes. I'm Mattie, and I lead the film discussions.
I'm Josh, and I lead the music discussions.
And today is another film episode for you guys. Today we're talking about the Brazilian Western, funny sentence to say, film Bacurau, that got quite a lot of acclaim down there. It was apparently a huge hit, and it won the jury prize at Cannes, I believe. But before we get on to that, as usual, we have a nice little topic to chat about. Um, something that's been quite controversial. Very recently, actually, I'd planned to talk about this topic in a certain light, and then one of the people involved in this topic released a video, talking to a surprising extent about the topic that I didn't anticipate. What I'm talking about is Zach Braff and Florence Pugh's relationship. Josh, are you aware that this exists?
Yeah, before the call, you were asking me, you were worried that I wouldn't know what was going on, and you'd have to catch me up. But yeah, I actually know exactly what you're talking about. I have
Okay,
seen Florence Pugh's response to the event, and yeah.
yeah. So to catch people up, for I think months now, Florence Pugh and Zach Braff have been in a very low key relationship, and a large part of that reason is probably because um of the massive age gap between them. I think Braff is 42 and she's now 24. If that's right. Um, which is yeah, it's a big old age gap, and that kind of thing in Hollywood is not got has not got the best reputation to say the least.
Mm.
But recently, she posted a photo for Zach Braff's birthday, in which she pretty much like stated that like they're romantically involved, and apparently she got a lot of like flack for that, and posted a video basically saying like I'm 24, I can make my own decisions, and we're just a couple. George, what's been your take on the whole thing?
I think I just didn't care. I never thought it was really super weird that they were together, and I was surprised there was a huge backlash. I wasn't aware of the backlash, and when I saw the video, I was like, yeah, that's reasonable. I have nothing ill to say about this. And now that you're saying it again, I guess one interesting angle is I assume everyone's going to jump at the bit to defend Florence Pugh and Zach Braff because we all like them. Um, how do we feel about Leonardo DiCaprio, who pretty much exclusively dates 20 somethings? Is
Yeah,
I feel like we constantly clown him and some view him as kind of gross for that. And so I mean, why is Zach Braff any better? I guess is my question. Does this should just change how we always talk about huge age gaps in relations, or not?
what I would say is I think there's like so with Zach Braff and Florence Pugh, it's like they're in love and they're in a relationship. I kind of see that as like a happenstance of life. Like they just met and like there just happened to be quite a sizable age gap between them. Like when Zach Braff was 18, Florence Pugh wasn't alive. Which is crazy. But if they met and they like got along and they're, happy together, and like I don't know Zach Braff, I don't know Florence Pugh. But they both seem like relatively nice people. Um, and they can make their own decisions. If they're happy together, they're happy together. I think there's something about Leo and it's the Playboy Association that kind of taints it. Where like it's kind of like if I see someone that's like just met someone that's a lot younger than them and they fall in love, I'm like, oh, that's kind of different to like actively seeking out young models kind of thing. I don't think like we need to like end Leo, but it is kind of weird.
I will
Um,
play devil's advocate, and this is going to age really poorly if 2 months from now allegations come out about Leah, and that's the
yeah.
big thing. Like I remember I was into a podcast where they were talking about Louis C.K. a few years ago and how much he thought he was funny, and it was like, ooh,
Oh
that didn't
no,
age well.
yeah.
Um, but that's fair. I thought Louis C.K. was really funny before the allegations. But anyway, So two things. I think I think that well, actually, really one thing. I think that maybe one could argue that views romantic relationships is more valuable than like sexual relationships. So like people who are like aromantic or aren't into monogamy or being in love inherently are like more subject to moral scrutiny, whereas people who fit into a very conventional format of courtship are not, and maybe that's problematic.
Yeah, but these people aren't aromantic, so it's
Yeah,
like
but I mean, if Leo wants to sleep with young women, as long as it's consensual and he's not being predatory or like gross about it, how is that inherently wrong? Like, would we be upset for Jennifer Aniston if she wanted to sleep with young 20-something models?
um I don't really see any reason why not. I kind of, and also you do, I do think gender does play a part. Like we're
Mm.
talking about Hollywood, this organization or not organization, this area that has a phenomenal history for exploiting women, and I do think there is a huge difference between like, yeah, like actively going out and seeking women that are considerably younger than you and becoming involved with someone romantically. Um, Not because like there's anything wrong with going out and like seeking sex at all, but because I think it, yeah, definitely there is a intense correlation, specifically with Leo, um, of yeah being around younger women.
Yeah,
And
I
I
think that's a good point, and I don't even disagree. I was just playing devil's advocate.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, I see what you mean.
It's just a gut thing. Like it's like I see a dude constantly like that guy is not young. That guy is not young. Like what do you
Mm.
like a
Yeah,
middle-aged
no,
dude.
I see what you mean. I think it's the habitual nature of it that makes it like a
Exactly.
bit off. I think if it was every now and then, yeah, okay, to you, but yeah, the habitual nature is a bit predator. Yeah, I see what you mean. I agree. I was just playing devil's advocate.
No, totally. I know you, yeah, you're just it's like definitely good to pose questions about subjects in a neutral light to come to like final truths about them. And I think, yeah, I just find something very different about uh like the way, yeah, Florence Pugh and Braff have done it. Although I will be honest, like before Florence posted that video, I
Mm.
was genuinely skeptical as well.
So when I'm pushing 40 and I introduce you to my new 23-year-old girlfriend, are you gonna be
Nah, because I know you. I mean, no, I'm calling the feds. Sorry, it's feds.
That's good to know. Good to know. I'll keep that in mind after my second divorce.
Your real Pierce hours. Um, but yeah, like I don't know. I saw it and I was kind of like, yeah, she's like just breaking into Hollywood.
Yeah.
Um, and like, oh, she's just suddenly with this much older man who like his career isn't doing amazingly.
Mm.
And I was like, oh well, there's some kind of odd power stuff going on
Yeah.
there. Um,
Yeah.
but then she posted that video, and I kind of thought, man, I'm kind of being really patronizing. Like, she's
Yeah.
24. Like, she probably like she does not come from like a poor family. She has a lot of resources to
She
protect
went to
her.
Oxford.
Yeah, yeah. She like and also like aside from that, like she doesn't seem to be in a situation that is problematic. Um,
Yeah, I think like power is a big. So like earlier on, I kind of contrarianly pointed out why are we valuing romantic relationships more than other relationships? But I do think like it's easier in situations like Braff and Pew to see like, okay, this person has over a long period of time decided this was like good for them and committed to it. And like as opposed and is a similar level of fame and success as opposed to like a 40-something-year-old movie star who like has brief encounters with no-name people. There must be some sort of power dynamic there, or do you know what I mean?
No, no, totally. Like these,
Yeah,
like, because when you
it's easier to
see,
suss out in this situation.
yeah, when you see him with those models, they're not well known. They're not people you know. It's not hard to imagine a scenario where it is it is like more about control than it is about consent. And like, yeah, and even if there is like informed consent going on, there's just permanently that air of like, yeah, like he is a huge film star, and then that coupled with the and everything that comes with that, then that coupled with the habitual nature, like you said, like it is the habituousness of it, like it's just weird. But yeah, I think I've said everything I need to say. It's just an interesting thing to happen. Like I never ever would have thought that Florence Pugh and fucking Zach Braff would end up together. That is so bizarre.
Yeah, I'm pretty. I'm pretty. I don't really care that much about Pugh's personal life or Braff's personal life. So I hope they're happy, and more power to them.
Yeah, yeah, they seem well. They seem well. All right. So I think we'll move on to our review of Bacurau. Like I said, yeah, has become quite a big hit for Brazil. It tells specifically Brazilian story.
Do you know who directed this?
It was two directors.
Hmm.
One of them, I think it's a very early work for them, and the other seemed to have quite a storied filmography. I'm gonna say their names. It's directed by Kleber Mendonça Filho. I hope that's not a terrible pronunciation. And Juliano Dornelles. I tried. Yeah, like I said, it's easy to see why this took Brazil by storm. Because it's a profoundly Brazilian story and incredibly contemporary. I think yeah, there's something to be said for how specific this film is. It kind of reminds me, not in terms of style or tone, but it reminds me of how incredibly contemporary I Daniel Blake felt, where it really feels like not a retroactive capturing of truth, but like a very contemporary and current moment of storytelling. Um, I mean, yeah, I will just get right into it. Josh, how did you find it?
I thought it was quite good, but I was frustrated at its. In my opinion, I think it fails to commit fully to anything, and a lot of it felt like I really like this idea, and I wish you just took it further. Like I feel like the film wasn't quite sure if it wanted to be a heartwarming ensemble piece about like a small town and their livelihood, or a pulpy, violent uh, action kind of cultish film. And in my opinion, it didn't go far enough in either direction. But overall, I enjoyed the whole film. I just wish it took itself further, basically.
Damn, it's another Mattie and Josh completely agree on a movie episode. um yeah, struggling to pick a side was top of my notes. Unfortunately. Um I guess I'll frame that by talking about the film's structure, because I think that's where that problem shows the most. Because like you said, the film starts off genuinely like really heartwarmingly. Um, like you're thrust into the village in such an emotional time during like its matriarch's funeral. Carmelita is her name. This is a spoiler discussion, by the way. That comes very quickly. That's not a spoiler, but there will be spoilers discussed in this review. Yeah, you're thrust into the village during this very emotional time. But because of this huge cast and like God, they're able to coordinate it so well. Like it's so well directed. All the blocking is amazing. Um, and there's just so many little intricate details. Like I really love the like DJ guy that's there at the funeral. There's a really touching moment where Teresa, sort of the character you enter the film with, is sat alone with the body of her dead grandmother. Um, and it's just a really quiet moment. But so yeah, the film pulls off its like opening, which isn't an easy thing to do given the scenario. Um, but as the film goes on, it hops around a lot. It goes from this really like quaint story about a village under threat to this kind of odd pulp, yeah, like you said, pulpy satire. Um, and when I started realizing that the pulpy satire elements were coming in, I became worried. I thought, God, you've done this soft village like style so well. I don't know if this is gonna work, and I I don't know if it does.
I think what film this really really reminded me of in structure and structure was Hot Fuzz. It sounds weird, but hear me out.
No,
Hot Fuzz
no.
has the kind of and I hate to sound like I'm just dunking on this film, but I think Hot Fuzz does this a lot better, where it has kind of the homey village vibe, and you really get to know everyone. And so when the big twist comes in Hot Fuzz, where you find out who's doing the murderers and why the murders are happening, which honestly isn't that far politically from what this film is trying to say as well. Um, it's like so much more impactful because you recognize all the village people who turn out to be the murderers and their personalities and like what they wanted, and it's so like well executed. Whereas here, it is so warmly shot, beautiful, but the script writing is weirdly distant and cold. It never lets me get to know the characters, other than brief flashes, and it's just I wish it would let me in more. And if you're not going to let me in, then give me a satisfying violent finale. Like it almost gets there, but again, it tries to toe the line of, oh, this is a tender, heartfelt story, and it's like, yeah, dip your feet in the pool, buddy.
Yeah, I just found, particularly in the script, like you said, that there were moments where I was like, okay, wait, we started off with this film with the character of Teresa in this village, and I feel like we haven't been there in an hour. This is quite a long
Mm.
film. And yeah, I feel like in that first half an hour, I was really getting to know her character. Like you enter the film through her at her grandmother's funeral. Then you see her meet the character Plinio, and like they like end up having sex, and it's kind of giving you the impression that it's gonna go into her, or at least let you explore the film's sort of thesis through her eyes. And after it shows the sort of like American characters and what they're up to, it kind of just abandons her.
Mm.
Um, she shows up towards the last, like, during the climax of the film, really. But even then, she's kind of in the background. She takes sort of backstep to the character of Lunga, who I do really enjoy. Like his appearance for starters is captivating. There's something about the actor's performance as well. It's so like passionate, but also just manic.
Yeah, he felt right out of like a Lost Boys, Dust Till Dawn type film.
Yeah, I think that this film would be, frankly, I don't know. I feel like if it had been about him, I think it would be. I think it would have carried that first half, which felt quite slow, a lot more.
I think personally, if I was approaching the same film, I think how I'd approach it is I'd make the actor's name is Thomas Aquino. His character is interesting. It's got two names. Picote, which is like his old murder killer machine name, and then Acacia, which is like his reformed. He's left murdering behind him. He's not doing that like renegade shit. I think I think how you do this film, in my opinion, is he's the central character. You're watching him try to leave his old life behind him, and his old life involves, the character you think you really love of what's his name?
Longer.
Lunga. Um, and his new life of the Acacia name is one of like trying to be more domestic and like less uber violent, and that way I think if you really focus on that character, you could get both worlds of like the homey villagey life and
Mm.
the pulpy murder life. And it's like, you know, it doesn't feel like out of nowhere or like these themes aren't connecting very well. I felt that would really ground it if you just had a person. I feel like this tries to go for the ensemble piece, but doesn't commit enough to make it satisfying. So yeah, just pick a character and focus on them.
Yeah, that's frankly brilliant. Like that's such a good idea. Um, and I think like your focus on his character shows that there are standouts. I really like him. There's a moment when these sort of dirt bikers show up, and he realizes that they are not here for anything pleasant. His facial expression is so like it goes
Mm.
to this cold look, but that's so full of anger as well.
He
That
is amazing in this film.
yeah,
Like,
he's fantastic. I loved him in that moment. Um, Another fantastic moment is when he's transporting the dead bodies of people that those same dirt bikers killed, and he just screams at them like, "Why did you go? I told you to come back." Um, it's amazing. Like it's actually phenomenal.
yeah, I wanted more of him so much in this film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like it was constantly jumping around and showing us too much of the
Yeah.
things I didn't want.
Another character who I loved, I wanted more of, Mr. Mingus.
Mr. Mingus
She
fucking
is
bangs! I love Mr.
MVP.
Mingus.
She is so memorable. And I wish she had like a character arc or
Yeah,
something emotionally to latch onto. She's just amazing. I loved her performance.
yeah, I
So
was
good.
worried when she showed up in the first scene. I was like, that's gonna be a really annoying old woman that's like gonna just ruin a lot of the nice feeling of this film. And then she confronts Michael at the end and just faces death completely unflinchingly, and it's phenomenal. Um, and yeah, I think the best thing that this film does, again, while I love the sort of village feeling that it creates in the first half, um, it kind of flounders with that. The best thing this film does for me is tension. I really enjoyed these moments of just fear of what would happen next. It was very simplistic. It was driven by some genuine care for characters. Like the moment where Dominguez confronts Michael. Also another like horrible scene. It's one of those scenes where from the outset you sort of know what's gonna happen. It's when the children are playing like hide and seek. Oh no, they're playing like who can go furthest in the dark. Um, and eventually like a child goes too far in the dark and is murdered by one of the Americans. Um, like I said, you know exactly how this scene is going to end when it begins, but it really takes its time showing that like this young boy going like these people going back and forth until this you know that he is just going too far.
Yeah. And again, I also really love that scene, and it's really suspenseful, tension building, great stuff. But after it happens, I'm like, okay, we had a gratuitous child murder. What are we going to do with that? And I guess the film uses it to show that the murderers aren't all super bad or have some sort of weird moral standard, or which I guess is kind of interesting if you're making a comment how people justify their violence and
There's something there, yeah.
political kind of when there's like a town you don't care about, so you just want to kill everyone in it. Kind of like how London treats the North.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, like the piety flighty. But I don't. It wasn't super satisfying. The way I really hate that argument they had. I hate the American scenes. They're not interesting.
They're kind of laughable.
Yeah.
The I'm not gonna lie, the performance is like sucked. Like for the Americans, I thought they really reminded me of the bad horror films I watched. Those performances. It
Mm.
when those scenes started, like I'm not gonna lie, I felt like I was watching a different film. Um, I don't really know what happened.
And as another point of comparison, I think for me, the stuff for the Americans felt a lot like Get Out in how that film has, Daniel Kaluuya as your lead guy, and then behind the scenes, there's like the evil white people, who are gonna bring the film to its violent climax.
Yeah.
And in that film, it worked so well. Like when you see them at the spoilers for Get Out, I guess. Go watch it. When you see them at the like,
it's 2020 for fuck's sake.
when you see them at like the what's it called when you're bidding, the bidding fair, the auction, and it's like such a great scene. And here it was a very similar dynamic, thematically and tone wise, but yeah, it just didn't jive well with the rest of the film. It felt like we would take a break to be in a different film for a bit, and then we went back. Like, and maybe being jarring was the point, but it really brings the film to a halt in a confusing way.
Yeah, definitely. I think you can juggle two tones well. It has been done. But I think pulling these two tones off together, that's really hard. I think it works so well in Hot Fuzz, like the contrast between the folky kind of English humdrum of it all because of the humor in the sort of first half of Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, it does work better in comedy films because I think Curse of the Were-Rabbit, Wallace and Gromit did it really well as well. I think it lends itself to comedy. Yeah,
there are Wallace and Gromit reviews coming up, by the way. I'm not kidding. Wallace and Gromit is top tier. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, when it comes along, like, I do love this world that it builds. And it is, and I use the term Brazilian Western because it does live up to that. It's grand. And you really feel like this is a story that's being told about something small, but that means so much more and is being shown as so much more. That doesn't unfortunately work well with these other scenes, of like kind of comical, and they're because the scenes aren't laissez-faire. Like, they're not careless. They're meant to be provoking. Like, yeah, they're like kind of comedic and kind of jabbing at you to feel a certain way, and it just doesn't mesh, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think to kind of say something a bit more positive, because I do like the film, is what you said about the grand Western scope of this. I really resonated with me. Like, the colors in this film look so gorgeous and like luscious, and reminds me a lot of what's the name of the guy who directed Call Me by Your Name? Luca
Guadagnino.
Yeah, reminds me a lot of Luca's kind of directing style. Of everything feels really vibrant, and like you want to sink your teeth into it and like lay on the grass. Like, it's gorgeous, gorgeous film. And I feel the same way about when it gets violent. Oh my god, when the two when they're going after the nudist gardeners. I don't think they're nudists. I think they're just naked because they live alone. And they're about to burn the hut down, and then he pops out and like blows him right in the head. Like, that's the type of gratuitous violence that's so satisfying and enjoyable, and you can really like get into it because it's like justified violence. It's like, yeah, these are bad people, and I'm excited to see them get their heads burned off. And it was
felt amazing.
The blood felt so vivid and like beautiful and like lovely. It was really nice. And same with the ending scene when Lunga gets his big final kill. That was really awesome. And I just wish there was more. Like I think the ending of Get Out it's only like 10 minutes, right? But the rampage is so satisfying, and it's like, and this is hitting a similar emotional beat, but I don't think they let it play out as much. I think you should play this film a bit more like a horror, where you don't see the Americans really until the third act. You just like, people are just dying, and you're seeing like snippets, kind of like Midsummer, you know? And then at the end, it's just this othered enemy, and you get their deal, but you don't have to watch them talk to each other in their little base camp. I want it to feel more like a monster a wolf at the door kind of. And then when they all gang up to defend themselves, I don't know. I feel like that would have worked better. Less of the Americans talking, more of the violence, I guess.
Yeah, to go with Josh and say some more positive things about the film. Um, yeah, the I do really enjoy that last showdown. Um, I it again lives up to the Western name. It's tense and you don't know how it's going to play out. Um, and it takes its time building to it, and in the end, it's over really quickly.
Mm,
And and I actually found that quite satisfying in a way. Like it
yeah.
really felt like a comeuppance. And to me, really like brought home the strength of this community. Like I really felt like, um, it was just that they were just blindsided by what was going
Mm,
on. But once they could unite and really understand and come together under a strong leader, that they were like a powerful force to be reckoned with. Yeah, like the moment where Lunga is oh, because you I do hate these Americans. It's a really tricky one because I don't think their scenes work very well, but at the same time, I hate them. Um, so when I was watching Lunga peeking up from that trapdoor and just waiting for him to fire, it was pretty great. Like I was really into the film at that point. Yeah, yeah, it does have things it does really well. It's quite, yeah, it's
yeah, I think
unfortunate in a way.
while we're on the subject of like things the ending does really well, I really, 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 really adore Carmelita's ghost showing up in front of Michael.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and that's how he gets distracted and dies. I think that was so cool and surreal. It reminds me a lot of what I won't spoil it, but what Paul Thomas Anderson does in one of his films, where the whole thing is naturalistic, and then right then some weird shit happens. I love it when films do that. It's great, and it was such a beautiful shot, like her floating and glowing.
Yeah, she's
Um,
beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was wonderful, and it again it perfectly thematically gets across what the film's trying to say in a really amazing way. Like nothing bad to say about that. Really
I
cool.
yeah, I also love the world of this film, like this really like queer, like racially diverse society. Like I don't know, like it just and the thing it just felt so natural. And obviously
Yeah.
one thing that's seriously under threat, um, in under like Bolsonaro's regime now is yeah, like kind of minorities and especially like native populations
Mm.
as well as like homosexuals and trans people.
And also like sex workers in this film. Like lots of films
Yeah.
use sex workers as like the character trait is like this character's broken or you know morally corrupt and they're gonna like get saved like for like Pretty Woman or something. Whereas this like yeah there are just sex workers and it's fine and people treat them well. And
Yeah,
it's not like a blight on their personalities. Like they're just
they're
as
just
cool
doing their thing.
as everyone else. Like I think that was really progressive and interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Like and it's not just like shown well. It's like made into the world even more. Like there's a moment where one of the sex workers is standing outside while someone's working, and he says and he's slapping his hands and he goes like just great rhythm, isn't it? I love that moment. And I kind of wish there was like just a bit more of that.
Yeah, more of that like energetic, humid approach.
Witty,
I would
yeah.
have liked that. There's a film, Sons of sorry, City of God has like kind of the similar kind of you're getting a sense of the country and the village, but there is this fast-paced, kinetic, funny approach that is like so satisfying. Yeah, I think I get that this is going for like a sleepy Western vibe. If I'm honest with everyone, I'm not that into Western, so um, I always just want things to be a little bit less like a Western. But so I get this going for the sleepy vibe. But yeah, I would have liked more, I guess, humor, just something to endear me towards these characters. Because obviously, I care about the town. I want to care about the town, but let me live in it for a bit. Let me like let these get to know these people a bit more.
I really like the old man with the guitar as
Oh,
well.
he's amazing. He's
Yeah,
a
because as well, he's like you see him at first and he's like, "Ooh, who's this mysterious man? He must be really profound." And then he starts singing and he just says the most like vulgar stuff to these tourists to like freak them out. Um, and I actually, yeah, I want to kind of talk about the political commentary of this film, because I do think it's really poignant as well. You kind of get the sense that these Americans aren't just here out of um, their own agency. They're not acting illegally. I think that's because um, you know that the town Bacurau has been taken off the map, um, and there's sort of two things to Bacurau being taken off the map that it means. It means literally, yes, in the film that the government is probably behind this, and they're sort of sponsoring or allowing these Americans to come in for their own twisted fun. But then, yeah, what that also has is it removes Baccarat from a wider sense of belonging in a community. Well, yeah, there's pride amongst them as part of a village. There's also like something horrible about seeing yourself as removed from your homeland officially. Um, and I think that's definitely something the film gets across really well. This sense of despondency of and that you get when people realize, and also people are insistent that they're on the map. They say like when the teacher realizes that they're not on the digital one, they go, well, let's look on this one. We are on our map.
Yeah.
And I love that.
I don't know specifically the political situation in Brazil. However, relating this back to like being English, it does. I feel like a metaphor could work about, you think about all the towns that are like just neglected completely and essentially killed by neglection,
Yeah.
from the government, from austerity, and like wiped off the map in that way. Obviously, not quite as literally, but yeah.
No, yeah, and they're just sort of turned into these shells for corporations. Like people live in those towns so Nando's can make money. Like a lot of the time, like these regenerated shells, it's horrible. Um, but yeah, unfortunately, in this film, it's honestly shockingly like not that far from reality. I think what this film is like mainly commenting on is genuinely quite directly, yeah, villages like this, especially like famously or notoriously, um, like native populations are just being taken off the map, so no one notices when they're gone, not on the map, and it's horrible. Because obviously, a lot of, like Bolsonaro being so right wing, he's very pro business, and pro business means getting rid of land for people and opening up for agriculture and all that type of thing. This is why deforestation is so inextricably linked to class and race. And you really just can't act like they're separate issues because, yeah, while this isn't set in the rainforest, this is something that is happening all over Brazil, and particularly in the rainforest where people that have resided there for generations are being removed so that businesses can make money. And yeah, I think like while the film becomes more exaggerated and kind of with the American scenes and kind of campy, um, I do think you get a sense of like horror of just not existing and what happens to you when you're completely out of touch with the rest of the world.
And I think I wouldn't. And yeah, as I was saying before, when I was saying I wish the film went further in that poppy direction, I don't think that would detract from the political statement. Like I think Get Out goes as far as it can with the pulpy violence, and
Mm,
never does that make its statement less potent. And I think we are dealing with like similar themes of this and Get Out. Obviously, different groups being affected, but the idea of just being erased or viewed as commodity that is disposable. It's a very similar, you know, imperialism kind of vibes, imperialism
yeah.
type beat, and um, yeah, I'm just saying that I don't think I think the political message of this film is very sturdy and interesting and meaty, and would have only been helped by the film committing even further to what it does best.
Yeah, I totally see where you're coming from. Yeah, I think that about wraps it up. Yeah, I've said quite a few problems with this film, but there's like a heart to this film that I do respect and love, and I'm really happy that people have connected with this because It is so. It is very clearly like a vision as well. Like someone wanted to tell a story, and I'm very happy they got to tell a story and that it connect with the people. So I'd like definitely give this a recommend. Um, I remember I watched the YMS review, and he said he'd give this a recommend if you're a fan of like blood and gore and stuff. I don't know about. I thought that was an interesting choice. I think towards the end, I guess, and there's certain moments. But this is a 2 hour, 10 minute long film. That is, if you're looking for that, you are. It's sparing. Um, what I would recommend about this film is there's a lot of different ideas that I think are worth exploring. They just don't handle juggling them all that well. I really like your ideas, Josh, for improving the film. But I kind of like it in its own way now as well because it's so yeah, it's so pure in a way. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, even though I harped on this film a lot, I do. I think it's a really good film, and the only reason I've been harsh on it is I think it could have been a great film. I think lots of people are comparing this to like Parasite, and like the similarities are there, but it's just not. It's good, like where Parasite goes all the way with everything it does, and it's unflinching, never afraid of just going there. I feel like this was a bit flinching, but in its great moments, it is really good, and I think it's definitely like yeah, decent recommend, really worth a watch. And yeah, it's got some flaws, but overall, very good film.
Fantastic. Well, I believe we have ticked all the boxes. So that just leaves you, Josh, to tell us what we're talking about next week.
Wonderful. Next week will be our final episode of the college era, in which we talk about graduation. Uh, so that's quite a popular album. I know people have kind of like stronger feelings. I was actually surprised going online. People really like that album. So join us next week and to conclude the college era. I look forward to seeing you there.
Awesome. Awesome. I can't wait. Well then. Yeah, so we'll see you next week to talk about graduation. Thanks very much for listening. Josh, say
ta-ta, ta-ta,
bye.
ta-ta.
Bye.
Ta-ta.